friends, welcome to Skholar IAS Current Affairs classes. In this class, we will be covering most important current affairs articles from exam point of view. These articles are covered from various sources like the Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, Live Mint, etc. Log on to scholar.in or download Skholar Android app for further free articles, daily quiz, test series, notes, videos, mind maps, and everything related to UPSC Civil Service exam preparation. So let's start with our first article of the day. It's about unique maritime cluster. This article is important because it is from GS paper 3 about infrastructure, energy, ports, roads, airports, railways, etc. So why this is in news? Because a new maritime cluster is coming up at Gift City in Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Maritime cluster is an agglomeration of firms, institutions, businesses in the maritime sector that are geographically located close to each other. Basically, it's an ecosystem of entire maritime sector or sea logistics sector. This cluster will consist of Gujarat-based shipping lines, freight forwarders, shipping agents, bunkers, suppliers, stevedores, and shipbrokers with the chartering requirements. In future, this type of cluster will also be developed in other cities like Chennai, Mumbai, Visakhapatnam, and Kolkata. Now let's understand why such cluster is important. Many Indian ship companies have moved abroad because we don't have such ecosystem in India, and this project will try to bring back that businesses back to India that have migrated over years to the foreign locations like Dubai, London, and China. Even landlocked countries have developed a number of maritime services that are currently not available in India. So such maritime clusters are very important for the port development and overall economic development. But let's understand what are the services that are provided at such cluster, maritime cluster. The Alternative Dispute Resolution Center will be set up under the aegis of Gujarat Maritime University. See, since this is an international in character, and there are lots of chances for arbitration and mediation in cases revolving around bunker disputes, ship sales, shipbuilding, repairs, and commodities. And so such dispute resolution center is very important. This center will be like Emirates Maritime Arbitration Center at Dubai or China Maritime Arbitration Commission at the Greater Bay Area in China, etc. This center in Gujarat will provide an option to Indian players seeking to avoid availing the services of international alternative dispute resolution hubs, because going there will entitle huge cost, time, and also travel. So when such a dispute resolution center is available in India itself, so Indian players need not to go to the international alternative dispute resolution hubs. So now let's move on to our another article. It's about India United States relationship. This is important from GS paper 2, which talks about bilateral, regional, and global groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interest. In this, we will be discussing about India-US relationship and also major agreements between India and US relations. So this is important because recently there has been change in administration in United States, where in the recently held election, a new president has been elected by the US people. The India and US relations has improved after the Cold War. And this improvement was partially due to India's shift in foreign policy post 1991 reforms. It includes like de-emphasis on policy of non-alignment and multidimensional engagement with Western countries like European Union, Japan, and also Southeast Asian countries, etc. This strategic political consideration has brought India and United States to work together. And also economic concerns like access to investment, technology, and market has also contributed to such engagements between India and US. Now let's see the important agreements. There were barriers in relationship between India and United States because of the Pokhran test, that is nuclear test held in 1998. And there was also disagreement over the comprehensive test ban treaty, that is CTBT, which India refused to sign. And there was also trade related issue conflicts between India and US at the World Trade Organization mechanisms, especially the AOA, that is Agreement on Agriculture and WTO mechanism. But after the 2000, September 11, 2001 terrorism attack on US has understood the India's position on the nuclear, on the India having the nuclear warfare and techniques. And because of this, after that, India has signed nuclear deal with US in 2008. After that, there were also many others agreements were signed with related to trade and business, and but other agreements with related important agreements with related to defense are like logistic exchange memorandum agreement that was signed in 2016, and also the India US defense agreement that was signed in last month under 2+2 ministerial dialogue. Let's move on to our other deals. The former president of the US, Barack Obama, was instrumental for India-US relationship to move into the next level of relations with focus on issues like terrorism, economy, and market access. The Trans-Pacific Pact, the Iran nuclear deal, the Paris Agreement has also helped India to move relations with friendly states other than US like Iran, while also building linkages with non-traditional security issues like climate change. So, but during the Trump's presidency, what happened is it has taken a backseat, specifically the Trans-Pacific Pact, the Iran nuclear deal, and also the Paris Agreement. But there was overall improvement in the military and strategic agreement engagements with US, especially like the quadrilateral security dialogue. However, the Trump administration also criticized of India's trade policies and it also placed specific curbs on H1B1 visas, where certain complex sites of disagreement between India and US also emerged. So, where lies the way forward with the change in new presidency? The trajectory of relations is not expected to change considerably in the new presidency, and India may see advent of new rules-based agreement, which is again new steps between the India and the US engagement. There might be increase in demand for highly skilled employment market in the US, which is beneficial to India. And the new president has also said that he will ease the H1B1 visa, which is again beneficial to India. But the new areas of disagreement is likely to emerge, especially in the matters such as like human rights, values like democracy, freedom, and secularism as well. Let's move on to our next article. It's about power sector. Again, this is important in GS paper 3 with related to, as I said, infrastructure, which includes power, roads, ports, and airports. India to achieve the target of 5 trillion economy, the power sector needs to be revived on the war footing, because power sector is very important and it's a basic it's a backbone sector for all the industrial sectors in India, including the agriculture and service sector as well. The Let's understand about the Electricity Act. The objective of this act was to make the power sector competitive, ensure consumer centric, and promote ease of doing business in India. It also provided for electrification of rural areas, license fee generation and distribution, compulsory metering, and rigorous penalties for theft of electricity. It also sought to privatize distribution companies, that is DISCOM, as they perceived as the weakest link in the value chain. Let's understand more about the DISCOMs. Most of the DISCOMs are managed by state governments, and these DISCOMs suffer from low revenue collection due to high cost of buying and maintenance, inadequate hike in tariffs, and maintaining dues from government departments as such, and also aggregate technical and commercial losses. AT and C losses. It means AT and C losses comprises of technical losses because of transportation of electricity, theft, billing inefficiency, payment defaults, and collection inefficiency as also. But what the need of the R is to help the discoms to deal with their losses and effectively monitor electricity consumption in India. So there are some suggestive measures about which we will see in the next slide. Before that, let's understand about the regulators. The regulators are mainly established by the state governments. Though the regulators in states are like semi-judicial in terms of power vested, but they are not allowed to function with the full autonomy in the states. Regulators must balance between service providers, that is discoms, and also consumers, and balance certain cannot be tilted towards the consumers alone. So the traffic decisions, traffic in the sense the prices of electricity need to be taken without are being taken till now they are being taken without taking into the account of cost of power purchase from the generating companies. Tariff decisions are mainly taken from the consumer point of view alone in India. This needs to be changed. So where lies the way forward? Let's understand this. There should be focus on technical losses that happen due to resistance of wire and equipment as electricity passes through this. The authorities should replace these wires to minimize the losses which are outcome of technical inefficiency. The government should also focus on modernizing the aging distribution infrastructure. In India, the electricity infrastructure has old as from 1960s and 70s. So, but there are lots of new smart technologies are available that needs to be modernized. So, and there also need to be societal change to address the problem of power theft in India. Although there are rigorous punishments, but still somehow, the people who steal this power, they somehow they get, they don't get caught because of various loopholes in this one. And the government also needs to increase the competition in this sector by encouraging the private sector participation. There is private sector participation in few states like Delhi and Maharashtra. Let's go on to our next article. It's about production linked incentive scheme. Uh, the new government has launched a PLI scheme that has the potential to be a game changer and can make India a production hub. So currently, many manufacturing companies are moving from China, and they are looking at various countries to relocate their manufacturing hub. And India can become a next potential next production hub, and this can make lots. This can generate lots of revenue to the government, generate employment opportunities for youths of India, and also increase the exports from India. This is important for the again for the GS paper 3 with regard to industrial policies and with regard to industrial policies and investment models as such. Previous there was also other previous scheme called as MEIS scheme where 85 to 90% of the exporters avail this scheme. However, the current scheme is for those companies that achieve the incremental production targets, which means suppose if a company is producing some 1,000 units of mobile phones, if the company if the company produce more than 1,000 units, then the incentives are given to such companies. This is just an example. This scheme, that is PLI scheme, is aimed at getting global big companies like Apple and Samsung to produce in India for exports and also for the local consumption. Let's analyze this scheme. This scheme has been restricted to just 10 sector, but this will let to government focus on this sector. Initially to focus on this sector. Okay, because this sector can improve the increase the India's exports and also provide employment generation employment to Indian youths. Since subsidizing the exports is against the WTO, that is World Trade Organization rules, the PLI is given on the domestic production, but certain rules are put in place to ensure the bulk of production is exported. How? As the market for high-end phones is limited in India, giving incentives for the production of these mobiles will make exports cheaper. See, let's understand this. Okay, according to WTO rules, the exports need not to be subsidized. But what is in the scheme? The subsidies are given to incremental production. It is not specific for exports or for the domestic markets. So these are this incentives are given for whether it's exports or for the domestic consumption. But in India, the high end phone market is limited. So what happens is eventually the products that are manufactured are exported as such. Okay, so this is a good way to circumvent the WTO rules that place limits on export subsidies. India doesn't, the government doesn't target these subsidies based on exports or local consumption, but since the market for high-end phones is limited in India, they eventually get exported. So it will circumvent the WTO rules. The government hopes that the GST collection, that is goods and service tax collection on the mobiles sold in India will be more than the value of incentive being given. The government hopes to give about incentive of about 50,000 crore rupees. The purpose of the scheme is to defeat the purpose of the scheme will be defeated if it leads to only to decline the market price of the goods manufactured. See, if the price of that product get declines and it is sold only in the local domestic markets, then the purpose of this scheme gets defeated. Let's move on to our next article. It's a news article. It's about digital payment ecosystem in India. The National Payment Corporation of India recently has placed a cap of 30% on the total number of UPI, that is Unified Payment Interference transactions on third-party apps. So what are these third-party apps? Third-party apps are like Phone Pay, Google Pay. These are third-party apps. If you ask the Paytm or third-party apps, no, they are not third-party. Paytm is not a third-party app because it has got the license of payment banks. If Airtel payment banks, these are the payment banks. So these are not third-party apps. Phone Pay, on the other hand, Phone Pay, GPay are the third-party apps. This was done to address the risk and protect the UPI ecosystem as it further scales up. As the UPI ecosystem is scaling rapidly and as it further scales up, if one of these app gets failures or broke down, it can risk the entire economy or the entire payment system. To avoid this new 30% cap has been bought, has set by the NPCI. Let's critically analyze this. So there is no empirical evidence that this form of systematic failure until now. Till now, there is no such systematic failure has happened. If one considers this rule to be forward-looking, NPCI should have sought a technological solution rather than placing limits. Even though if such things are considered in future, what NPCI should have been done is that it should have sought the technological solution rather than placing a limit. It should have bought the new technological solutions where such failures, where there is an alternative to such failures. Even if there is a systematic risk in the sense dependent on particular, particular system. If the failure of that system is there, it can potentially harm the entire economy itself. It is called systematic risk. This can be easily dealt because of the availability of large number of apps on the UPI ecosystem. There is no one single such app, but there are lots and there are number of apps. If one app get failed, there are other apps also. So this can be easily dealt. In case of systematic risk, there is a chance that the entire UPI architecture may collapse itself. And if this collapse, there is no alternative to NPCI in India. Whereas NPCI is a private authority and should not make rules on payment, which is the domain of the RBI. It argues that in order to comply with the rules, a company may have to place limits on transaction or limits on new installation of their apps. See, for example, currently the PhonePe and GPay accounts for 80% of the UPI transactions. So, in order to comply the 30% rules, these apps may have to place their limits on the transaction or the limit the installation of the new apps. So this will lead to uncertainty of the app functionality and potentially higher the failure rates of the transaction. If this happens, the entire purpose of this cap would be failed. So where let's understand the way forward. So the better way to reduce the systematic risk is to ensure greater competition and lower the entry barriers. Entry barriers in the sense, if the new company or a new app is coming, the entry barrier should be the terms and conditions for to come inside this new business should be lowered. But in the inordinate delay in permitting the newer entrants, see, there are lots of delays in giving permissions to the newer entrants, like what's happened to WhatsApp Pay, right? That has been long delay. It to the market is an inexcusable with this regard. So to reduce the systematic risk, there should be greater competition. But this greater competition is not happening because there is a delay in permitting the new entrants in the UPI market. Thank you, friends. Thank you for watching today's current affairs classes. Stay tuned to Scholar's YouTube channel for regular updates on current affairs classes and other classes as well. Wish you happy Dhanteras, friends. And Scholar wishes you very happy, advance happy Diwali to all of you. Stay safe, celebrate, enjoy. All the best. Thank you.